Welcome to Big Little Stories. I'm Ivy Sharmetz. My guest today is a highly regarded and accomplished journalist who covers New Jersey and gives special attention to the stories that don't always get told. Ande Richards is managing producer of Diversity of Voices at NJ.com. She's one of the leaders there, one of the leading voices when it comes to news in the state. Her work has been recognized by the National Association of Black Journalists with multiple Salute to Excellence awards. Ande, thank you so much for being here. I certainly am an admirer of your work. I'm a consumer of the stories that you write. So I appreciate you taking the time to be here.
Ivy, I'm happy to be here.
I want to start because and I mentioned this that you are such a key voice in the New Jersey media landscape, but you are not a Jersey girl. And at least initially, right? So talk to me about you're from LA or you spent a lot of time in the LA area.
Yeah, so with me, every question gets this crazy answer. So I actually grew up in New York, so
Okay.
I'm not that far removed from the realities of the Northeast Coast. So I grew up in the Bronx, and I went to school in New Jersey. I attended Drew
Mm-hmm.
University, and then I moved to London, where I was born, because I was like, I have dual citizenship. I need to check this place
Right.
out. And then after that, I moved to LA, which is where I spent I would say, the majority of my
Mm,
adulthood was in Los Angeles.
yeah.
So, but now I'm back on the East Coast, and the snow has been great this winter. And
It's going to stay for a very long time too. This snow is not leaving
yeah, it
anytime soon.
snowed last night. I'm like, okay.
Yep. Um, I'm always fascinated by what draws people to become storytellers and to become journalists. So what was it for you that made you realize this was it's certainly a profession of passion. So where does your passion for journalism come from?
Yeah, I don't know, and I don't know that I really ever thought about it. And but upon reflection, I realized that every time I sort of broached the area of journalism, I would be uplifted in some way.
Mm,
Like starting in first grade, our teacher, what was my first grade teacher's name was Mrs. Rosenthal. Oh my
okay.
God, I can't believe I pulled that out again. And um, and she played classical music for
Mm,
us, and she said, I want you to write a story based on what you're listening to.
oh,
And apparently I came up with this whole narrative, and it was published in the little school publication. But I'm what, 5, 6 years
sure,
old. I'm
sure.
not really thinking about journalism. And then again in third grade, I went to PS 21, by the way. So I want to say what a great grade school public education I had. In third grade, Mrs. Morrison taught us haiku and limericks,
Mm,
and how to write poetry, and I really like gravitated to that. But again, I'm a kid. I don't know.
sure.
Then sixth grade, we had a teacher who was not as, I don't know, not as invested as some of my other teachers. And we were supposed to do a play. At the end of the year, at least when I went to school, we all performed plays.
Sure.
And he wanted to do a play from a book. And I was like, we can't do that after what we did last year. Like, so I got together with a couple of friends and wrote like this sketch comedy show,
Oh, wow.
like the Carol Burnett show, because loved Carol Burnett. And I was
Of
like,
course.
it wasn't great, but I really put in the effort. And I was like, we need to be at this level, not doing this dumb play from this stupid book. I don't even know what it was. Anyway, he didn't want to invest the time or energy into developing something. So we did the stupid play. But as I reflect, it's like all along the way, I was doing things that were around storytelling,
Mm,
but never really paying attention. And I could go on. In eighth grade, I think we had a I found this. I was going through my mom's stuff, and I found this certificate for the Muse, and I'm like, what the hell is the Muse? And I'm like, that must have been like the school publication.
gosh. Wow.
That in social studies, I did an interview oh, this is like perfect for today's climate. I interviewed a Haitian immigrant for an eighth grade like project,
Wow.
but still no
So,
clue.
so then, Andy, so then at what point were you like, hey, you know what? I really like telling stories and I like to tell other people's stories, and this is something I want to pursue? What was the moment that made you realize this was your
Ivy,
thing?
I'm a weirdo. I don't know. I just think maybe it was just organic. I think when I moved to London, actually, I interviewed with a documentary filmmaking production company, and that would have been my first professional journalism job had I taken it.
Yeah.
But honestly, they weren't paying me what I thought enough to survive on. I was like, I can't live off of this. So, but I think at that point, maybe in my early 20s, that I realized that I wanted to be in this world of
Yeah.
storytelling. I wasn't sure if it was going to be, production or writing or what it was going to be, but it was something that I think it's important, actually. I think
Sure.
it's important to tell stories.
Yeah.
So,
And then
yeah.
what brought you over to back to this coast and NJ.com?
Yeah, I during COVID, I I had a great COVID, and I hate saying that because I know it was so tragic for
Yeah.
so many people. But I got accepted to grad school, and I was at Berkeley in California, and in their journalism program. Once again, though, trying to figure out, do I want to do radio? Do I
Right.
want to do documentary?
Right.
And we had a professional development, not development day, but a day where a bunch of people, editors and publishers, would come in and talk to you about what they do,
Like a
and they'd be
career
checking.
day.
Yeah, like a career day.
Yeah.
And so, and you had these like 15-minute slots with everyone. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to fill every box. I don't know who's NJ Advanced Media? I don't know what that is, but I'm going to talk to them. And so I signed up for everything, and I just went in, and I could just feel I had really good energy that day. And
Yeah.
except for one guy was like, he not feeling me at all.
There's always
But
that.
for
There's
the
always
most,
that one guy. There's always that one guy.
always that one person,
Yeah.
because he had clicked on to uh and I'm showing off. I got to interview Carl Bernstein,
Wow.
and he wanted to read that interview. And because it was for the Collegian, for the Los Angeles Collegian, which is a college period, publication,
Yeah.
whatever was happening on our back end, he couldn't get onto it, and he was really annoyed that he couldn't find that article, which I would have gladly sent to him,
Sure.
by the way.
Sure.
But he was very crabby about that. And I'm like, oh well, I don't know. This is a 2-year program. This is just my first year. But I interviewed for the recruiter for NJ Advanced Media, and it was great. And he was like, I think I have the perfect job for you. And I'm like, I have another year left in this program. I'm not really looking for a job. It's just like checking it out,
Yeah. Yeah.
like getting my interview like skills going on. And he kept calling, and he was like, I want you to talk to Robin Glover.
Mm.
She the director of this new platform that they're going to launch. And I'm like, yeah, okay. Just like, really, I don't know what my problem, just not like, but he really pushed it, and he really made that interview happen. And I met with Robin, and I met with Kevin Whitmer, who was the general
Yeah.
manager at the
Yeah.
time. And I was like, oh, this sounds like a good opportunity.
Yeah.
And so the good opportunity was one part of it, but the second part was, my mom was on the East Coast. She
Mm.
was in Florida. Like most of my family was on the East Coast or abroad, but closer to the East Coast than I was the only one in California. So
You had
it
to come back
wasn't
home.
yeah, it wasn't a terribly hard
Yeah.
decision.
Yeah. What
Um,
when you talk about the new platform that Robin and Kevin were launching, talk about what that was. That was Mosaic, and it's now Diversity of Voices. Correct? What is
it's
that?
still Mosaic. That's
It's still
just my title.
Mosaic. Okay.
It's still Mosaic.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is
Um,
Mosaic?
Yeah, so Mosaic, and I think the way Robin envisioned it would be a place where you could go and read stories about communities that don't get as much attention
Mm,
in mainstream news. And because it would have its own rhythm, it would have its own river. Like if you go on to NJ.com, which is our parent publication, things go down the river pretty quickly because it's
sure.
news.
Right.
So, the stories move. Whereas on Mosaic, they'd linger a bit more. You'd be able
Mm,
to go and read things and come back to it and be able to find it and all that fun stuff. So we would have original content, and she also wanted us to have partner content from other like local news media, that maybe doesn't get as much attention, to
right.
uplift them so they could get more eyes on their work.
Yeah.
uh, so that was the initial concept for Mosaic.
And it happened at such an interesting time because I was in the newsroom. I was still in the newsroom during COVID and through George Floyd and Black Lives Matter and all that, when we really started to, as responsible journalists, I think, take a look at what are the voices that we're elevating, what stories are we amplifying, and how do we do a better job of being true storytellers. So how does that all how does the timing of this all come into play?
Yeah, you nailed it. It was post George Floyd. I think when news outlets, when everyone was trying to do better,
Yeah,
you know, just do better at telling stories. Being aware of bias in telling stories is a
right.
huge thing. So sometimes it's not the telling of the story, but it's the we're supposed to be objective, but a lot of times our bias will come through
Right.
in that you may only tell a story based on a police report, or you may publish a mugshot and the person hasn't even been convicted of the crime yet.
Right.
That's a problem.
Right.
So a lot of those practices have changed, for the better. Yeah, so I think what George Floyd was such a catalyst
Yeah.
for the country in general, and it just made us open up a bit more and be more compassionate, and value maybe the story beneath the story,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. How has the Mosaic platform changed the way you even think about what stories you'll cover?
It hasn't changed anything for me. I think
Mm,
they hired me to bring what I bring to them.
yes.
I mean, I'm an underdog kind of girl.
Yeah.
That's those are the communities that I gravitate toward. I think of myself as an underdog. So those are kind of the stories I want to tell. And it
Yeah.
just worked out that there was this place that wanted those stories.
Well, and the variety of the stories that you tell, I just recently, two of your latest, how to verify your immigration attorney, to you wrote something that was highlighting a film festival that was featuring Disney's first Black princess.
Yeah.
I know that there's an editorial process that everyone goes through, but to you, what is it about a story that makes you realize this is a story that I need to tell, that I want to tell, that's important for the community to tell?
Yeah. I mean, that story with Ingrid Echeverria, who is the attorney that gives tips on the way immigration laws are changing, and how to select an attorney, things that you need to look out for,
Mm,
is is just so important right now.
yeah.
I mean, in addition to what's going on with wanting to how can I say this? I mean, clearly we have issues with immigration, but the sometimes the way we're going about fixing the problem is is creating more
Right.
problems.
Right.
And one of the problems that is happening is that some unscrupulous attorneys are just taking money from people and not giving them the service they're paying for.
Right.
So I thought that was a really important
Yes.
story, and I thought Ingrid was the perfect person to interview. The way she speaks, even though she's an attorney, it's very clear,
Mm,
it's very understandable, and so that kind of story is something that I'm like, okay, we need to have this. I
right.
don't I don't know how many people it's kind of not a sexy story, but I hope people read this.
Yeah.
And then, on the opposite end, just highlighting like a little film screening of a Disney movie. Kids
Yeah.
kids need refuge. They need to be able to go escape. I
Yes.
remember I used to go to the movies all the time as a kid.
Yeah.
Actually, when I was a kid, and now I'm going to sound really old, they would send us with a little packed lunch and snacks. And me and my two little cousins, they would drop us off and pick us up. That's the world that
Yeah.
I lived
Yep.
in. I don't think you can do that today.
No. No. I
I
don't
think
think so.
parents should be afraid.
Yeah.
But yeah, so all of those types of stories are important to the community as
Sure.
well. Yes, we need these hard-hitting, informative stories. We need to talk about police brutality. We need to talk about certain laws that are going in place,
Yeah.
and we also need to talk about a concert that's coming
Sure.
up, or
Sure. It's
yeah,
all life, right? It's the things that
right.
are difficult and the things that help us celebrate life too. We have lots more to talk about. We're going to take a very short break. More with Andy when we come back. Andy, you wrote something that I'm going to read to you because I was so moved by it. Um, it's on your LinkedIn profile. If anyone wants to check out Andy's LinkedIn profile, it's there. But you wrote, "Journalists write the first draft of history. We are the watchdogs for society. We can elevate, we can destroy, we can be change agents. I am a journalist because I believe in the power of documenting our collective experiences. Through this medium, in all of its incarnations, I can share information, spark critical thinking, inspire action, and give space for humanity." When I read that, I was so moved by that because I think that that is really the essence of what powerful storytelling is and why journalism is so important. And it made me think about all of the changes to local news in particular and how there's less resources, and we hear about newsrooms shutting down, and we hear about layoffs. How do you see the current media landscape, especially as it relates to local news and the importance of it?
Yeah, it's really tough because media organizations are fighting for survival,
Sure.
and unless you are really well endowed, like the New York Times, which I love to read the New York Times, it's not easy, and you have to make hard choices. Um, we need more local newsrooms. Like I said, I think that Robin's initial vision of wanting to bring in more local newsrooms under that Mosaic banner so
Yeah.
that they could get exposure was a really great idea. We don't do as much of that as I hoped we would, but again, also a lot of those local newsrooms are disappearing because they just cannot sustain. They
Right.
don't have they depend on funding, and it's just not there. It's
Yeah.
just not there. And I was trying to explain this to some young people, some activists that I met. I said, "You guys have so much energy, but you need media training. Like they don't
Yeah.
understand the power of the media.
Mm.
They don't understand how to use the media. They don't understand that they can be a part of the media.
Yeah. Why is that?
That they
Because it that almost seems counterintuitive because we are drowning in media, it feels like sometimes, and everyone has a cell phone, and a lot of people call themselves journalists. Some are citizen journalists. Everyone thinks that, just because they can record a video or write something that they're providing a service. They aren't always. But so when you
yeah.
say that people don't understand the media, where do you think that disconnect is?
Well, the way I see it is they're still calling on traditional journalists to report their stories,
Mm,
right? To cover what's going on. And sometimes there is something that I can write about, and other times I'm like,
right.
this would be better if you wrote an op-ed, if you
Mm,
wrote an opinion, and I'll guide you. I
sure.
like offer to help them on how to structure that. and they're not interested in doing that, but they want the traditional media coverage.
Right.
So there is something to be said for a newspaper, whether it's paper, which is rare, or online. Um, you can tell your stories, but there is a format, there is a way,
Right.
and you just don't want to. When you give thought to what you're doing, when you actually sit down to write something, you engage different parts of your
Right.
brain, so you're not splatting things out.
Yeah. Yeah.
you
It's
know
true.
it comes across differently, and you may gain more support for your cause.
Yeah.
I think, like I said, these were some really young people I was talking to. They haven't grown up with that, so they
Right.
don't understand. Like, they kind of get it, but not really.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. What do you say to young journalists who see the importance of the work that you do and aspire to be a journalist? What advice do you give them?
Read.
Mm-hmm.
Read other
Yeah.
people's work. Who do you like? Um, you know, be aware of what's going on. What is your point of view? Uh, you know,
Yeah.
yeah, just it's really actually quite simple. Actually, through Mosaic, did hosted actually, I wouldn't say hosted, I produced a couple of events called Journalism Day, where we invited students to come and go to different workshops,
Mm.
sports writing, photography, opinion writing, news writing. We had Juan Gonzalez one year give a talk. Juan Gonzalez is Democracy Now! Anchor,
Yeah.
and also professor, and author of amazing books. Um, so offering up these really brilliant people to talk to, engage with them, and giving them practical
Yeah.
workshops that they could work their way through, see if they even liked it. Do you
Yeah.
like doing this? Do you see yourself doing this? I would say even non-journalists attended and got something from it and really
Sure.
enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And then they also see what journalists do. Like, this is how it actually works, folks.
It's, I'm sure some people would be surprised to see how it actually how it actually works. But Robin, Robin, we're talking about Robin Glover. Andy,
That's a,
you certainly are such an important voice in the New Jersey media market for sure. I know the work that you're doing, just in the way you are amplifying voices and telling stories that needed to be told for a long time, and knowing that you're at the helm and doing this work just makes me feel proud of New Jersey, and happy to see your work in NJ.com and Mosaic. So thank you for doing the work that you're doing. Obviously, the website is NJ.com. And I just appreciate you making the time here. We end every show with something we call 3 Big Little Stories. We just do them rapid fire. Are you ready for them?
yes.
Okay. Andy, how do you? I keep wanting to say Robin now. But Robin Glover, by the way, who has retired, was also another wonderful journalist. But Andy, how do you get yourself out of a bad mood?
Oh, easy, dance.
Oh,
You dance, you cannot remain in a bad mood.
it's very
Try
true.
it.
Very true.
Bad mood, start dancing.
What is your go-to karaoke song?
Oh, I don't do karaoke.
Well, you just dance. That's all. You just do more dancing. Um,
Dance. I'll dance and do backup.
and what is one of your favorite places in New Jersey?
Oh, Roosevelt Park.
Oh,
I
very
used to
nice.
go there all the time with my pit bull Ralph,
Aw.
who passed away last year.
Oh,
I
sorry.
adored him, but I loved going to Roosevelt Park with him.
Andy Richards, thank you so much for taking the time. I love this conversation. I love your work, and I will talk to you soon.
Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Ivy.
Thank you. That will do it for today's Big Little Stories. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at Big Little Story Show. I'm Ivy Sharmetz. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.